Welcome back to Wednesday's Weekly. The Academy Award Oscar nominations were announced last week, and one thing about me, I love awards season. Like, love, love, love. I love going to see all of the films if that have been nominated if I haven't seen them yet. I create a ballot every year before the show to guess which film is going to win each category. I'm not a big sports person, so this is kind of like my Super Bowl. Anyways, I'm not going to actually be talking about the Oscar nominees today, but it did get me thinking about some upcoming book to film adaptations that I'm very excited for. So that is what I'm going to be discussing in today's video. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. First up is Project Hail Mary. This book was written by Andy Weir, who also wrote The Martian, which was adapted into a film, I want to say like a decade ago. Actually, you know what? Let's look it up. The Martian. 2015. I was right on the money. Yeah, so I thought The Martian was a great book, a great film. I do prefer Project Hail Mary's story a little bit more, though. So, if you're unfamiliar, quick premise: Guy wakes up on a space shuttle with no memory, has no idea why he's there, he's alone, and we, as the reader, go along on this journey with him as he pieces the puzzles of his memory back together. And he does this through flashbacks and a lot of science calculations. If you know, you know. I don't think that this is a spoiler. One of the first things that he remembers about himself is that he is a science teacher. So he's very confused. Like, why am I here on this space shuttle? I'm a science teacher. I am not an astronaut. And what unfolds from there is a really wonderful, beautiful story. I think everyone should go into this book as blind as possible. I also highly, highly recommend the audiobook for this one. There is a character you will meet in this book who speaks a different language, and you will want to hear how the language is voiced. I think it will really elevate your reading experience. But for the movie, we have Ryan Gosling set to star as Ryland Grace, who is our main character, our science teacher. And when I first found this news out, I'm going to be honest, I was not happy with this casting at all. I was like, Ryan Gosling is too Hollywood, too attractive to play Ryland Grace, because in my head, Ryland is like kind of your average nerdy but cute science teacher. But I was like, Ryan Gosling is just like too good looking to play Ryland. But then the first set of photos dropped with Ryan Gosling in costume while on set filming for this movie. And I was like, you know what? This is working for me. I will accept you as my Ryland Grace. So I'm now very, very happy and excited about this project. The directors on this project are, let's see, what are their names? I wrote them down. Christopher Miller and Philip Lord. They are a directing team who is most known for directing animated films. They directed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which won an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. I was a little bit confused at first about this choice as well, because they mostly do animated films, but then I got to thinking about it, and there is this one character that will have to be like fully CGI'd or some kind of special effects used. And I thought, you know what, maybe this is a good decision. Maybe they will, I don't know, have something to bring to the table to help Ryan. interact with this character. Ryan Gosling is an incredible actor, though, so I already trust that he has what it takes to interact with this character and hit all of the emotional beats that the book was able to accomplish. I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be solid. And this is set to be released in March of 2026. Next up, we have Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. This is one of my favorite books I've ever read. This is the first book in Abercrombie's Great Leveler series, also known as the first book of his standalones, although I do kind of don't agree. I don't think that they should be considered standalones. I don't think they should be read as standalones. But anyways, this is the first book that you should read after you read the First Law trilogy. This follows Monza Mercado, a female mercenary warrior. She has been a general of an army, and in the very first chapter of this book, she gets left for dead. She gets betrayed, and this is essentially a revenge story. It's an incredible revenge story, and I am so excited about the fact that this might be coming to the big screen as a film. We don't know much about it yet, other than Rebecca Ferguson is set to play Monza. You probably know Rebecca Ferguson mostly from the Dune films. She plays Paul Atreides' mother, the Bene Gesserit. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about her being cast as Monza. I hate saying that a female actor is too old to play a certain role, but I did picture Monza in this book much younger. So I'm not sure, but I do think that Rebecca is an incredible actor, and she does have that like grittiness to her, I think, that she could bring to the role. So listen, I'm going to be stoked either way, because if this actually happens, which I think it's going to, and it's successful, that means that we probably have the green light, or whoever makes this film probably has the green light to move forward and possibly making the First Law. Like, I want the First Law to be made into a TV show. I want the First Law trilogy and Age of Madness. Honestly, whatever they want to do, I will take any of it. But this series, the entire First Law series, is so adaptable. You have incredibly morally great characters who are they're all very unique. It's so reminiscent of Game of Thrones, but completely in its own realm. It's a pretty simplistic fantasy story. There's not a ton of like CGI that would need to be involved. There are no dragons or anything like that, but you've got the like political conniving that Game of Thrones has, and it would just be fucking awesome. It would be so successful. I know it would, if the First Law trilogy and Age of Madness were adapted into TV shows. But even if that doesn't happen, I'm very excited for this to be adapted into a film. One thing I would love to know, though, is how involved Joe Abercrombie is going to be on the making of this project. I do know that he has a background before he published First Law. I believe he was working in film editing. So I would love for him to, be the writer on this project as well. I don't think a writer has been announced. So actually, I do have a friend who I think might be interviewing Abercrombie soon. And I did ask him, like, please, will you ask him one of the questions? Ask him for an update on the Best Served Cold adaptation. So fingers crossed that we get that information soon. And yeah, that's really all that I have. Again, if you haven't started your Joe Abercrombie journey, pick up The Blade itself. Just do it. Next up, we have Piranesi by Susanna Clark. This is set to be adapted into an animated film, which I think is perfect. This is another book I think you should go into completely blind. So I'm not going to tell you much other than it's first person POV. You're following a male main character. as he traverses through a house with a lot of statues. And it's one of the most beautiful stories I have ever read. This will probably remain in like my top 10 favorite books of all time, maybe even top 5. I need to really edit my top favorites list, but this I read last year. I read it in a single sitting. I was at the airport on the way to Ireland last year, and I read this like at the gate before I boarded my plane. I was had a little bit of a long layover. Anyways, none of that information matters. I inhaled this is what I'm trying to say. And honestly, I think about rereading it all of the time. It's just a wonderful story, and I think an animated adaptation of this will be absolutely perfect. I have no information on it, but I do know. So I'm currently reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which was also written by Susanna Clark, and that was adapted into a film, not a film, it was adapted into a live action TV series, which I can't wait to watch after I finish reading the book. So Susanna already has experience with getting one of her other books fully adapted. And yeah, I feel like this is going to happen. She's got one under her belt. This will be her second, and I cannot wait. Very, very excited for it. And the last book I have on this list is The Murderbot Diaries. This is book 2, Artificial Condition. I read All Systems Red. I think it was like on Kindle Unlimited or something when I read it, so I don't own the physical copy of it. But this series, I've just read books 1 and 2. I haven't moved past that, but I have really enjoyed books 1 and 2. Well, to be perfectly honest, I was a little bit lukewarm on book 1. I think I rated it 3.5 stars, and then I think I rated this one 4 stars. The premise of Murderbot, if you're unfamiliar, it follows a sec unit who hacks into his own government module system because he is tired and anxious and depressed from offing people, and he just wants to sit around and binge watch TV all day. And it's kind of like a comfort read. It's really fun, and they're all novellas except for one. There is one that's like a full length, I think maybe 300-ish pages, maybe longer, but the rest are all novella length, so they're super quick, short, easy reads that you could take down in a day. This will probably be coming to Apple TV. Has ordered 10 episodes of this series. I think they're already filming. Let's see, did I write notes for this one? Yeah, I just wrote 10 episodes. Alexander Skarsgård is set to play Murderbot, which this is another casting one where I'm not entirely sold. Honestly, Bill Skarsgård, his brother who played Nosferatu, I would prefer to see him playing Murderbot because, again, I envision Murderbot as a bit younger. I love Alexander Skarsgård as an actor. I mean, Eric Northman, yes. Hell yes. We love Alexander Skarsgård. I think he'll do great, but Murderbot's personality is pretty funny. And I've never seen Alexander Skarsgård play in like a comedy funny role before. So I'm like trying to stay cautiously optimistic about this one, but Apple TV seems to deliver on almost all of their projects. I'm currently watching Severance right now, just side note, which is fucking awesome. If you haven't watched Severance, you should totally start it. Season 2 started a few weeks ago, so I think we're like 3 episodes in. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. But yeah, back to Murderbot. Is there a release date? I don't believe there is one. One of the writers attached to the project wrote Rogue One, which I think is like, some people love Rogue One, some people, it's like controversial. I'm a fan of Rogue One, and it's, like a sci-fi space opera type story. So I'm staying cautiously optimistic for this one. I think it's going to be great. Anyways, those are all of the upcoming book to film adaptations that I am most looking forward to. Fingers crossed they all actually happen. I think a solid 3 out of 4 of these will be happening. Hopefully, all 4. Yeah. Um, and that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next week.